John Edwards recently found himself under fire for hiring two bloggers who, in the past, made controversial statements criticizing the Catholic Church. Edwards, he hired Melissa McEwen and Amanda Marcotte from the blog Shakespeare's Sister and Pandagon. Now, the women, they have criticized the church's opposition to homosexuality, abortion, and contraception, sometimes using profanity. Edwards, he refused to fire the two, saying they deserved a fair shake. However, he says intolerant language will not be permitted from anyone on his campaign. And for more on the Edwards blogger dust-up, we turn now to David Waldman, DailyKos.com contributing editor, and he joins us out of D.C. David, let me get right to it. Should Edwards have hired these two women in the first place?
Well, I think what he was trying to do calls for hiring some folks who have got some opinions and are outspoken folks. He's really been out front in the online effort, and I think he was really trying to make an effort to find some people who could run a blog that would really generate some discussion. I think he's done it.
No, he certainly has done that, but the issue is there's one thing in trying to woo the netroots, and there's another thing entirely not doing the vetting process. If you put this on the other foot, if McCain or, for that matter, Giuliani hired as their blogger folks that said some really insulting, inflammatory stuff, we'd be having a totally different conversation right now. Why isn't he canning these people? Does he defend what they stand for? I know Edwards said he's opposed to everything that they wrote in the past, but he's not demanding their pink slip, should he?
No, he shouldn't, and we probably would be having exactly the same conversation right now if, and it's not even really a very big if, the other side had hired some people who had done or said some inflammatory things in the past. McCain has got a number of people on staff who are highly questionable, who are being questioned right now. You could probably have this same conversation with someone else in the blogosphere at any given moment, and it would be about McCain and his staff.
You know what, though, I've found in the reaction so far to the two women in question is if Edwards were to fire him, then the network community would abandon him in a heartbeat, and he's between a rock and a hard place. Listen, for me, the part that I find a little bit of a problem, and tell me why I'm wrong, is every night here we do a blog segment, and every night the blogs will take either something said and they'll make a large issue out of it or hold accountable people for the words that come out of their mouth. But it's almost a double standard. If they write something, hey, that's on my private blog before I even came to the Edwards campaign, why shouldn't they be considered the same way that old media is and be held accountable for their words? Some guy who wrote this in the New York Times, they'd be canned today.
Well, that's a matter of some opinion. I think that you would probably find the same discussion. And you would find the same discussion about old media as about new media, because new media people who are writing are pretty much the same people as who are writing the old media. There's no difference. This is an alien race. These are just people who are expressing their opinions, and different campaigns will deal with those opinions differently.
Well, he says their postings offended him personally here. He's willing to give them a second chance. At the end of the day, you think that he's added more voters or subtracted them with some of the comments that obviously people of the Catholic persuasion, at least some of them, could find more than just offensive?
Well, it'll be an opportunity for him to open a dialogue with Catholic voters, I'm sure of that. I think the extent to which this sinks in the greater community of voters is yet to be seen. Inside the blogosphere, I think he's done right by the more liberal half of the blogosphere, and they're willing to stand by him. There are certainly people who were probably offended by the comments. Edwards himself has said so. But there's a difference between cutting off offensive speech and never wanting to have anything to do with it again, and opening a dialogue that offers an opportunity for two-way discussion and maybe some healing. And I think he's got that opportunity now. Maybe it's unique.
David, finally, should a candidate be held accountable from the words of a blogger on their staff? Should they be not just able to say, well, those were the musings of just some person in the blogosphere? If they're going to put them on payroll, should they be held accountable for what they say?
Well, they should certainly be held accountable, and the question is, how shall they be held accountable? It seems to me that occupying the top of the fold position for the last day and a half on this, Edwards has had his accountability moment, told you what he's going to do about it, and he's been upfront about it. There will be accountability. This will happen again. This will happen with bloggers on the right and bloggers on the left, and we'll see how those candidates deal with it.
You know what? Something we'd agree on, David. This will not be boring, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now with this story beginning to at least simmer down to a degree, what will all this really mean for the future campaigns that turn to the blogosphere? Michael Turner, he's here with more on that in tonight's Blogger Beat.
Thank you, Rich. For Edwards' campaign, for better or worse, Marcotte and McEwen have been given a second chance. But what does this mean for the relationship between mainstream politics and the occasionally crude Wild West world of the blogosphere? From progressive blogger Ezra Klein at the American Prospect, the question here should be whether Amanda and Melissa are qualified for their jobs. What it's becoming is whether candidates are responsible for the views of their underlings. And that strikes me as a rather dangerous to answer in the affirmative. Indeed, many blogs on the right and left seem to be coming to the same conclusions. This scandal could be bad for everyone. From the conservative blog American Princess, if we continue on the current path, we are signing away a license to skewer mercilessly any blogger ever hired by any Republican presidential campaign. It's open season on everyone. There's no political job that any of us can take without the understanding that we will now be vivisected for our very beliefs. And that's not something we're looking forward to. The blog Right Wing Nut House, which has been as colorfully critical of Marcotte and McEwen as anyone, nonetheless steps back to ask all bloggers, is this what we've become? The constant back and forth of charge, countercharge, revelation, followed by the inevitable attempt to alter the discussion by pointing to the sins of the other side. Is there anything we can do to change this dynamic? I have no answers. The only thing I'm sure of is that I and everyone else will be guilty of the exact same sins the next time blogs swarm in and target someone for scalp lifting.